I had shared a little bit about how I believe I encountered an angel, how Father had sent him to basically comfort me and just speak enough to me to go ahead and get me through that time period. Um, Father was always rescuing me from the time I was separated from my family, one way or the other. A few years later, um, after I became a believer, um, I was injured. I'm 19. By the time I'm 21, I become a believer, and then Father has me literally go to Nevada, and through a series of events, I ended up working on a project under Secretary of the Interior James Watt under the Reagan administration to punch holes in the ground in the wilderness areas in Nevada to discover how much gold was in the ground. There was an initiative, there was a, how can I call it, a grand scheme to bring the United States back under the gold standard. I am just recently a believer. I'm a young guy, but Father again works things out. You know, he's the one who's raising me to get this job. But I just want to say, I'm just a worker on a drill rig. I have no expertise in the field. I know nothing about this, even what it means to go back under the gold standard, never mind, comprehend what I was doing. But through the course of this time, I'll tell you a story. I'm having to get to the job site at 8 a.m. It's a 250-mile drive. So that means I'm up at about 3 in the morning, get in my truck, and I travel 150 miles on pavement, come to a mile marker and a dirt road, and I now have to travel 100 miles on a dirt road. Well, I brought extra gas, so that, I don't want to get stuck out in the middle of nowhere. You got to not only go in, you got to come back. So I calculated the amount of fuel I need based on, the mileage I get in my vehicle. But I'm not calculating the fact that I'm traveling on a dirt road going up mountains. Didn't quite figure it all out right, did I? So I'm going up the mountain and I'm going, oh my, this is going to be something because I'm going through gas like you can't believe. And I'm like, oh, what's going to go on here? I had no clue. My Jeep coming the opposite way. I'm heading into the mountain. They're coming out of the mountain. Don't know who they were. Didn't even know someone was out there because this is wilderness areas. No one can live there. No public can access the land. It's restricted. It's government. It's wilderness. And this Jeep comes flying past me. And about a mile up the road, as I'm driving along, there's a 5-gallon can of gasoline standing right in the middle of the road, upright. And so I stop and I look and I can see the smoke of the dirt road. This Jeep is now, a couple miles further away. And I looked at that jerry can and I went, oh, wow. Father just had a 5-gallon can of gasoline delivered to me. Crazy, huh? Wow. You would just be amazed because everything with Father is timing. What if I got there earlier? I would have passed that can. I wouldn't have, what might have happened, and I wouldn't have seen it. And that Jeep passes one way, and the can's there in the road. Oh, hallelujah! Right? I took that can, put it in my vehicle. I was thankful to the Father. And anyway, that's the kind of things He does for His children. we just sometimes got to pay attention and realize that's, when you walk with the Father, He knows what you're doing or not doing. And if He's got you doing something, He pays for it. He always takes care of you. Well, anyway, I brought that all up because, one remarkable circumstance after another, Father does things for your life. And I was pretty happy. I did that kind of work for a while, but I made it back to the Bay Area, and that's when I used to study under Dr. Gene Scott for a long time. I did that for about 4 or 5 years, and it was pretty exciting. It was okay. It was good. It was a bit lonely. You work all the time, and you're just studying or watching and reading. And once in a while, I went to an event, but we didn't have a local fellowship we could go to or whatever. That's what was probably lacking for the whole ministry. But when I ended up meeting this girl, and I took this class, I was so happy. I was so thrilled. I was around believers, but they knew the Word and they could teach me the Word. And once you take the class, you can take it as many times as you want. Well, I did. I took that class, I believe it was 13 times over the course of the next 3 years. And it takes you a month to go through the class. But I was very, very happy. I ended up getting engaged to the girl, but, it wasn't Father's plan. So, I was thankful I went through that process, and she was great friends, and I was good friends with her mother, good friends with her brother, and I helped raise 2 of her nephews with the brother. I got the mother and the brother into the ministry, which my fiance at the time was incredibly happy about because she couldn't make any inroads with them. But, that's how Father works. Well, as time went on and I took all the classes and everything, the ministry had a major breakup. A lot of ministries in the United States did. Things changed, and we moved the Word quite a bit, but the ministry had its own internal problems. It broke up. People were getting fired. So I got the thought one day, I said to myself, I want to get married. I was engaged to this girl. She broke off our engagement, and her mother helped me out tremendously because she was a marriage counselor. Again, Father. Just amazing stuff. And she gave me some advice, and she told me, she said, Bruce, why don't you go out dating? And that snapped me out of my depression, if you will. I said, okay, if you're giving me permission, it's got to be the right thing because you know better and it's your daughter. Well, I did. I learned a little bit about men-women relationships. I started applying what I learned, and I kid you not, I was dating 3 times a week a different woman. 3 times a week. I went to fellowship. I loved fellowship. And one day a week I did my laundry. Simple life, simple boy, general contractor, doing whatever I wanted to do. So I lived my life how I needed to live it, and it was open to the Word. And I had time for the Word, and I stayed true to it. And I studied the Word and lived the Word and discussed the Word. And there was a believer from Texas. He moved his family out to Fremont, California, and we all got invited to his fellowship. And boy, what an impact that man had on my life, because it was it was a great time because we could come in and have fellowship, and then after fellowship we would have fellowship. And he told us, he said it was the greatest fellowship he ever had in his entire life with any group of people at any time, and he was in the ministry for years, decades. He said, there was nothing like it. He said, we would have fellowship, and then fellowship would end, and then we'd have fellowship more. He said, it was just great. But it was the core group of us. We all hungered and thirsted after righteousness. We all wanted to know how to rightly divide the word. Needless to say, I never brought up any of the situations that occurred to me, that had happened to me prior to what happened in the ministry, before the ministry era, I call it. I kept that all to myself. And I think it was a good thing I did until I got older and other things changed. So I'll stop here for a moment.